If I had to describe Adriana in a sentence, I would say that's nearly impossible. She's a very high-strung, motivated, complicated, vivacious woman who can be tough, a pain in the neck, I think she would say it herself, yet compassionate and very vulnerable.
Antonia, come back over here with Costa. This is why this is important. We're running late. We got an hour. I can't even do any talking. Come on, people, we gotta go. It's almost 7:30. We're half an hour late.
If I had one sentence that I would say about Adriana, I would say that of all the things that she epitomizes, it would be theater, glamour, and entertainment.
Listen, we haven't got time. This is something that should have been done last week. Go find him. This is dress rehearsal. He has to be here to make the announcement.
I'm going to get my cane. Do you need anything?
Have everything here. No, I don't need nothing.
I just feel a loyalty towards her because she still keeps putting forth the effort, and in spite of all the problems that she's had in her life, so I just sort of feel that it's an obligation. Not an obligation, really, more of just something I want to do for her.
The chalk! For what? Center stage is right here, girls. Can you see it? Take a look. Here's center stage. Come over here, everybody. What's her name? Can somebody tell me where the fifth dancer is? I mean, even the music isn't ready. I mean, I've talked so much. Costa, what's happening here?
She gets a little bit uptight, you know, but I think it's her love for the music that keeps me, you know, working for it. Oh, at the end of every show, it's great.
My blood pressure's going up. I can feel it. Where's Baxter? He has to be here for rehearsal. Go find him again.
I already paged him.
Have him paged.
I did.
Hey, y'all all set up?
Hey, listen, where's Baxter? He has to be here. This is a dress rehearsal. If he's going to be the coach, he has to be here. He has to be here.
I think it's just marvelous to see someone who's had so many bad things happen in their life and who says, this is it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to consider age or health or anything else that goes along with that.
The woman's dance of the Middle East, or Near East, we secretly know as the belly dance, began, it is said, with the desert peoples, with shepherds, as entertainment and physical exercise to strengthen women's bodies for childbirth. What could be more diverting? In a tent at night in the middle of the desert, everything is portable. A rug, a flute, a drum, a tambourine, cymbals, percussion, rhythm, chant, a veil, beauty, talent untold. Everything is passing. It is powerful, dramatic, sexy. And Americans agree, in all honesty, but we have our Puritan virtues to consider. So this desert dancing, loved and hated, began as a bombshell for America at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893 as the Hoochie Coochie. And the dancer may have been someone called Little Egypt. In 1893, the Chicago World's Fair also gave us, among other things, the Ferris wheel and the pledge to the flag. That old Hoochie Coochie melody, even now, in the back of everyone's mind, was moment inspiration of the Chicago Fair's manager of the Midway, Saul Bloom, at 21, one of the highest paid men in the United States. Eastern dancing in America met, finally. It was phenomenal, sensational, applauded, and denounced in a world where the mere sight of a woman's neck or ankle was considered stimulating. These women danced, but not with their feet, no, with their bodies. They even smoked, just like the new American breed of emancipated women, already beginning to demand the vote. The dancing moved on and took hold in other world's fairs to come. Then in the circus and the carnival, in Coney Island, the movies, the stage, the nightclubs. Every dancer, it seemed in those days, seemed to claim to be the original Little Egypt from Chicago. And victims were left in her wake. And the music would change. To quote another song, ragtime, jazz time, swing, even tango and rumba and samba time, right through both world wars. Maud Allen, Isadora Duncan, Ruth St. Denis, the Russian Ballet, Mata Hari, dancer and spy, Theda Bara, the vamp, Loie Fuller, even Myrna Loy, and Greta Garbo. With World War II and after, behold Hedy Lamarr and Maria Montez, Yvonne DiCarlo, Rita Hayworth, and Marlene Dietrich. Then, 1961, Milena Mercuri hopas across the taverna floor in Never on Sunday, and somehow a new golden age of Middle Eastern dancing began. And somehow, it centered in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. And Adriana, our Adriana, was at the very center of it all.
It's something that I always talk about, is the golden days of Middle Eastern dance, the 60s, the 70s, the famous Port Said, the George Harris, the John Tattasopoulos, and all the dancers. It was something that was unbelievable. I can't explain it. When I went to work at the Port Said in Washington, D.C., we had 7 dancers. We had 4 to 6 musicians on the stage. It was like a movie theater, and we were packed, standing line only. The excitement, the awe of the people, the smoke, the rooms being filled with smoke, and the clanging of glasses, and the waiters and everything else was the most wonderful thing you could possibly see. People would walk in there and forget their troubles, and it was just continuous entertainment all the time. It was just an unbelievable scene. And everybody came to the Port Said to see Middle Eastern dances, your senators, your congressmen. I mean, I think I sat with many senators, congressmen, and so many people that it was unbelievable. I can't explain what I'm feeling. You can, and I mean, my eyes right now, the excitement of just thinking about those days was just wonderful. I can't explain it. It was just beautiful.
I met Adriana in 1967. That's how far back we go. And I did see her in her heyday. She was incredible. First time I saw her was at a place called the James House in Baltimore, Maryland. I had a date and we went there for dinner. It's a Greek restaurant. And we sat down, ordered dinner, and then they announced the dancer, which was Adriana. And when she got up on the stage, I could not eat my dinner until she was finished dancing. She was incredible, just incredible.
It was unbelievable. People traveled all over the world to come to the Port Said in Washington, D.C.
The first time I saw Adriana dance was probably very early 70s. And I saw her dance more than once, but the first time was at a club. It was probably around 1971. And it's hard to describe in a word or two, but she's just very dramatic and definitely absolutely very entertaining. She always reacts with the audience, and no matter what kind of it is, she'll always get them eventually in the palm of her hand.
1961, I think I was 11 years old. No, I was a little older than that. And I went into a place on 14th and K Street that was called the Suez Club. And I met Adriana in one of her dancing engagements at that particular club. And then, of course, she was dancing at the Sienna, at the Suez, Greek Village, the Astor Club, a couple of places in Baltimore. She really was one of a kind.
Good, beautiful, sexy. First of all, you are artist, nice.
Thank you.
Beautiful dancer, you know. When I came first here, I saw you. I told myself, my God, this girl, fantastic. Because I came from Turkey at that time. I've never seen Turkey like you, you know? And when I go back like couple, 3 years, 5 years, I go back to Turkey, I took your pictures over there, you know, I show the people. I told them that girl I met, she's fantastic, you know.
The excitement level would be the thing that most caught me. I was working 2 jobs in those days. I'd work for the U.S. Post Office and carry mail, then I'd come home and maybe nap for 45 minutes or an hour, get up and grab a little bit of dinner, throw on a pair of black pants and a white shirt and a bow tie, and out of Virginia and across the 14th Street Bridge at very unreasonable speeds, get parked in the alley behind the Suez Club, hit the stairs at a dead run, get in my band jacket, and just at 8 o'clock when my butt hit that stage, the lights would come up, and they would crank up and do something real fast like a GIZA. And it was full bore. There was no warm-up. You just came dead off the line in a full heat with the tires squealing and smoke flying, and people's mouths dropped. They had never seen anything like it. They never experienced anything like it. And it really beggars description. I don't know if you can actually try to do it any kind of justice. The colors, the different sounds, the different sights, the variety of people from the Middle East, from the Near East, all around in the United States, well-to-do people. It was very much the hub of the well-to-do.
Some people would say I was like 1,000 stallions, white stallions on the stage. Others would say I was this goddess walking through the stage. I can't explain.
She was really imposing. She's not a very tall lady, but when you see her on stage, you'd swear to God she's 7 foot tall. And she'd get into the stage and literally start charging at the audience in these great big galloping steps. You'd bet your life she's coming right off the stage and into your lap. It really was heart-stopping. She's very dramatic.
That all of my dancers are very lovely. I love each one individually. I have a special place in my heart for every one of the girls that perform for me and the ones that will be performing for me in the future. Antonia now also represents a lot of my floor work. She has seemed to have captivated that part of me, the beautiful movement that she does and the back bends and certain things. So she has captivated because basically of all of the dancers spent time with me, and they had the opportunity to see me perform. Antonia, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for Antonia. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful. Farouz is one style. You know, she's more what you call with the excitement and more alive. and lots of heavy energy. And when you see Farouz dance, you sing another part of my dance, Farouz, Sama, whom I think has come the closest of all of the dancers that I have taught and have gone on the stage, the closest that I can honestly say resembles me and portrays me. Her characteristics of her energy level is unbelievable as my energy level. Her acting ability up there, the dynamics that she has on stage presentation, I mean, I can see it through the audience.
When I first started dancing, I had not seen Adriana dance. She had a school in Washington at the time, so I knew of her reputation.
I first met Adriana back in 1973. At that point, belly dancing was kind of a craze, and there were a number of, quote, belly dancing schools that had opened up, and magazines like Cosmopolitan would run articles about how this would help you be physically fit and be attractive and what have you. So I had just graduated from college, and I was looking for something to do. So my involvement in helping Adriana run the school was something that took place gradually over time. Like I said, when I started as a student, I just fell in love with the dance, and I started studying several times a week. And then as a school, Adriana was just starting to encourage it to grow, and we formed a dance troupe. And I was the MC of the dance troupe. And we would go out and we would do shows at Walter Reed or hospitals, and we did some for the embassies. In fact, we got written up in the Washington Post. And so I became very instrumental in managing the troupe for her.
So I had developed 400 students eventually, and it became the #1 school. It was considered a very prestigious place to go. It was like the in thing. Like, you know, go to an in nightclub, it was like the in place to go. I mean, it was magical. You'd come in there and you'd hear, you know, the music and the clanging of finger cymbals and the swirling of skirts. And, you know, the success of the school, I think, was the success of my career because they knew me as a professional dancer. And we had all kinds of people coming in there. We had secretaries, from secretaries to female judges to female lawyers, doctors. I mean, all kinds of women that worked in the government. I even had the women's rights came in there, you know. That of course, didn't like this kind of, but they certainly came in, they danced, and they just loved it. Yeah.
A typical day at Adriana's Mecca Middle Eastern Dance, I don't think there was any such thing as a typical day. The school was located on Wisconsin Avenue, 2 doors down from Germain's restaurant. And one day they might stop all the traffic in the street because the vice president was eating dinner. It would be right in front of the school. Other people would just wander in. The strangest individuals would walk right off the street asking questions. There were always a lot of people there. We'd run 3, 4, or 5 classes in an evening with anywhere from 15 to 20 people in a class. Adriana, as you can tell by now, is just one bundle of energy, very nervous energy, so it was always high-paced and chaotic, I guess is the best way I can describe it, but fascinating. We were always doing something different.
Everyone's fear. I found the lump. So I went in to see the doctor, and he felt my lump, and he says to me, I'm sending you to a surgeon. I didn't even have a chance to think. I mean, all of a sudden, my life was starting to change at this point. So I went to the surgeon, and he said to me, you know, you have to change your clothes. And I just looked at him, and said, what is he talking about? I have to change my clothes. My clothes, what does he mean? Of course, at this point, I became like an iceberg. I know exactly where he was coming from. He says, well, you know, if you have cancer, you're going to have to, you know, change your styling of clothes. Well, I got a little irritated and a little uncomfortable at this point. And I says, who in the world does he think he is talking to me? Does he know who I am? I'm a dancer. He's talking to a woman that does Middle Eastern dance, not classical where I could hide myself or jazz or things. I wear costumes where I reveal my body, my breast area. I'm not a housewife, not a secretary. I says, I happen to be a dancer, but a particular type of dancer. I says, I happen to be a Middle Eastern dancer.
First, I honestly did not know she had had breast cancer. She dressed so well and she wore costumes so well that I had no idea, and given how built she is, that one of those was a prosthesis. But she knew. And sometimes I think that she was so self-conscious of it that inhibited her ability to continue to be the premier dancer in D.C.
All that entered my mind at that point was, as long as I can still teach, I will be happy. But if they tell me I can't teach, they might as well bury me. I had already made my decision. It says, Adriana, either you take that breast off or you're going to die. Now, if that's what you want, you have a life to live. I had to start thinking about how am I going to change my costumes so I can still dance. So I wasn't thinking about the trauma that was involved. And what I thought about was the fact that I had to do something, change the costumes and things like that, not realizing what it was going to cause me emotionally. Crying wasn't going to help me. My dancing was going to help me. Getting back to my life was going to help me. I was supposed to do a show about 3 or 4 weeks after I had the breasts removed. I went out there, I danced, they couldn't tell, we camouflaged it and everything else. I went out there to about an audience, about 500 people. My mother was with me, my family was with me, and they all were in the back, and I went out there. I felt very weird. I didn't feel funny, you know, because I guess from the surgery and everything else. And my family told me afterwards that the audience said that can't be the one that had her breasts removed. So it began to affect me because I'm a freestyle dancer. I dance with free spirit. I'm spontaneous as an entertainer. I like freedom of movement. I like freedom of feelings. You know, I'm kind of unorthodox too. And I felt the restriction because everything had to be tight because of the prostheses, but you never knew that I had a breast removed. And I began to feel the effects of this, but I was being emotionally affected and didn't know it. And my doctors didn't realize this. They figured, oh, she's going through it beautifully. Look at the way she handled it. I was handling the only way I knew how as an entertainer. I wanted to get back on stage to perform. I mean, my people were waiting for me to dance, and I had to get back, so I didn't have the chance to recuperate properly emotionally. They should have sent me to a psychiatrist. They didn't. I finally began requesting a psychiatrist, and they said, oh, you don't need a psychiatrist. You're doing wonderful. Well, if I was doing wonderful, why was I asking to see a psychiatrist? And I didn't feel right. I didn't feel comfortable. Of course, there was that man of mine, Charles Miller. And when I lost him, I lost my best friend. He was my best buddy.
Charlie, your husband are gorgeous. He's a very nice person. You know, really, he was too good, you know.
Charlie was a perfect gentleman. Charlie was charming, funny, and had the ability above anybody else to understand and put up with Adriana's personality. Everybody loved Charlie. He just knew how to talk to everybody. He knew how to treat Every person I saw him come in contact with, he treated them as if they were a king or a queen. He loved to entertain at the house. She and Charlie would have people over every holiday. She'd invite students from the school for. We learned about the Greek culture. We learned about Greek Easter. First time I ever had lamb was at her house. And Charlie would go all out in preparing the food, and she'd assist him. So, genuinely a charming, wonderful individual. Charlie provided the practical aspects of running the business and kind of keeping her balanced to allow her to be creative. But it's true that his death was completely devastating to everybody because of the way it occurred.
I remember coming home, and I saw all these policemen all over the place. I didn't know what the heck was going on. They wouldn't let me in my house. I said, this is my home. You got to let me through. They wouldn't let me through. My husband is dead from a bullet wound. He never hurt anybody. These two men, they took his life and took the happiness that he could have given many people who he would have met through the years, and to give them the happiness because people loved him. He was kind, generous, good, fair. I feel bad. Look at me, I'm a victim. I'm still a victim.
Burada yaşar aşkların en divanesi, en şahanesi.
I fell apart. I was under duress at that point. I was under shock, the death of my husband. You know, we're talking like maybe 3 or 4 years later is when I began to go screwy and you know, lose my mind. And I was very unhappy. I was in a state of depression and didn't really know it. And so nothing seemed to matter anymore. I had nothing to really live for.
Unfortunately, behind the scenes, you started seeing the woman herself fall apart. She was prone to temper tantrums or to thinking that maybe people were out to hurt her or to get her or what have you. And that sometimes affected the student body.
I became apparently very self-destructive and didn't know it because I began to close the doors on me. I didn't want the school anymore. I didn't want to dance anymore. I didn't want to do this anymore. And I think I was punishing myself for all of these deaths, you know, that had happened, especially his death. I felt that it was my fault, that if I had been home, he would not be dead.
But in all honesty, I think had the economics of the time been different, I think she might have still been able to keep the school going. It was like the school was her only baby then. The school was the only thing that she had left after she left Charlie. And the reason that she closed it up wasn't because she was falling apart. That was there, but she was hanging on. But the economics wouldn't allow us to keep the school open. It was in Georgetown, and the rent went from $500 a month to $2,000 a month. And I don't care how many students we could run through there, it just wasn't economically feasible.
Before you knew it, I was so confused. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know where I was coming from. I felt that, you know, get rid of myself, kill myself, die. I'm not worth. I mean, I felt worthless. I felt like I was a nothing. I felt like I was a nobody. That whatever happened to me, I must have been a real bad person. You know, that God was punishing me for whatever had happened. And I mean, I became no makeup. No, I didn't care how my hair looked. I didn't care how my makeup looked. I didn't care if I took a shower, didn't take a shower, washed my teeth. I says, who cares? Nobody loves me anyway. I was locked in my house for days, hungry, so my diet changed, so I began to gain some weight. I figured, well, maybe if I get fat and ugly, you know, I'll know who likes me, you know. Well, that didn't work either, because I found out that didn't, what difference does it make, you know, because I was shocked how people can get themselves in the gutter. I went to Boston reluctantly. I didn't want to go. I mean, I cried my eyes out when I saw what I was moving into. I moved into a dump. I was by myself. I didn't know what to do. These people came over. They said, "Haven't you left yet?" I says, "No." They says, "Why?" I said, "I have no money." I was a jellyfish.
Then she decided to go back to Boston to spend some more time with her mother and to spend some time with her sister and her nieces and nephews. But it's sort of that old adage, she found out that she couldn't go home again.
What they did there, they would allow the staff, the patients, to have a cooking spree every 2 weeks. So we decided, I and this other girl decided to have this cooking spree. And I decided we made it into a Greek meal. Everything was going to be Greek that day. Well, the whole hospital was getting the aroma of all this food that I was cooking, you know? And it was very funny because, you know, they do this all the time, but they said that this was the first time that all the staff through the whole hospital wanted to come to this dinner that they were having there, that I was cooking all this Greek food, you know, the pilaffi, and I was making lamb. They buy everything for you. The hospital does, and they have this for the people in that floor. But all the other floors said, "We want to come." This is the food was making them hungry, so it was really something, you know. And I mean, I got a big chuckle out of that. I said, "Really?" I said, "Do they like Greek food?" She says, "Yeah, you know." He says, "Well, it's fine with me if they want to come. Just tell me, we'll just cook more food for them." But
أنا بحبك وصلك أجيبني.
Somehow she had gotten herself involved in learning to do home health care. And I don't know the initial contact, but she ended up living down in Key West for a number of years, caring for an elderly woman.
you know, people ignore elderly. They ignore the elderly like they ignore other people. I wanted to go back home to Maryland, but they said, you know, could you please stay? And I said, okay, I'll stay until you find somebody. I want to go to, I was petrified because I was still sick. I wasn't really all there. And I took care of her, and I became her personal caregiver. And our goal was to be ready for her daughter and her son-in-law when they came down for Christmas, for her to meet them at the door. That did happen. We did meet the family at the door, and their mouths just dropped. They couldn't believe that Mother was standing at the door, you know, waiting for them. But that was our goal. It took us we had 4 months to do this. I exercised her every day. Constantly, I exercised that woman, so she was getting strong. All the nurses there and hospice and everybody said to me, there's one thing you don't have to worry about is when you walk out that door, you close that door, you did your job quite well.
I think that, again, gave her an opportunity to sort of physically revive herself and come to terms with her own demons and kind of figure out what she wanted to do with herself.
I had heard of Adriana on many occasions before I ever had the opportunity to meet her. She has probably known my dad, who has been in the restaurant business and nightclub business for a good 30 years. My dad had opened a place called the Astor in Wheaton, and she walked in one day and sat down at the bar and said, I'm Adriana.
I look back and I say to myself, my gosh, you know, what I went through and how I became apparently very self-destructive and didn't know it, because I began to close the doors on me. If this was now, this would never have happened. I would never have done these things or been brutal or vindictive the way I was, but it wasn't me, it was what had happened to me. It took 15 years. That's a long time, because we're talking from the time this happened to me in 1982 that I could say that I had my fall.
People can fall through the cracks, and that is just almost what happened to her. I mean, she was one iota away from ending up on the street.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't have known her at all. I just didn't, because the last time I had seen her, she was still very attractive, you know, long red hair, and
milky complexion, and just still had a lot of spunk about her. I didn't know her.
I don't know how I would handle it. I remember saying this all the time. I said, I don't know how I would handle if I lost everything. I don't know what I would do. I would probably kill myself. Well, you know something, ladies and gentlemen? I didn't kill myself. I'm still here. So that's a lot of baloney. I used to tell my doctors, I'm a coward. I'm a weakling. I am not strong. But you want to know something? Within the last year, I began saying, you're right. I am a strong woman. You're right. I'm a fighter. I'm a survivor. I kept to myself, when is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? When am I going to get back to normal? When am I going to become Adriana again? I wanted to live so much, I just didn't know it. And I didn't want to live because I didn't like Adriana anymore. I despised Adriana. I didn't like what she had become and what she was. And if I had to stay that way, then I didn't want to live.
In her darkest moments, and this is really not an exaggeration, she was somehow still able to say, help me, I need help.
like I was all alone. I was sitting like this and kind of saying to myself, why am I, acting funny? Why do I feel what I'm feeling? Why do I feel so lost? Why do I feel that nobody loves me and nobody cares about me? Why do I feel that I should be still alive? Maybe I should have taken my car and smacked it against that cement wall. But at that point, I came out and I went immediately to the clinic that was right there, the mental clinic. I walked in and I said, I need help. Please help me. So she took me to the crisis center, and that was the beginning, let's put it this way, of me coming back. It's not over for me, and it never will be, but I have learned to control it by seeing psychiatrists and seeing counselors and being persistent and abiding by their rules and doing what they've told me to do.
And having known other people who have suffered through mental depression, through manic depression, I think one of the things I would say to families and to friends is don't give up on that person, because there are times where you want to, because that person has done some really idiotic, crazy things, haven't we all, but has really, perhaps escalated in behavior, is very histrionic, is making it very difficult for loved ones and for friends to help. And what I would say then is don't give up on that person. If at all possible, get them to a doctor, get them to the crisis center, get them on medication if they need to be. There are certain conditions that require it. It's like having diabetes and not having your insulin for it, And provide the support that you can. Don't try to do it for them, because as we well know, that doesn't work. But be there, waiting in the wings to help if you at all can, if you can do that, because that's extremely important. Because I think the bottom line is that everyone wants to be able to help himself or herself. No one wants to feel like a charity case. I know that Adriana said many times to me, I don't like this, even though I'm in this position, I'm asking for this, I'm asking for that. I detest it. It really, really bothers me. I want to be able to give something back.
I'm that type of a person, When I start something, I'm going to finish it. And I think a lot of people who are out there right now don't realize that maybe perhaps I might have said or did things, but it wasn't me, it was my illness, my depression that caused this problem. And if you are out there, I want you to please accept my forgiveness, because I meant no harm. And if I did or say things, was because that I was trying to put you down. It was my illness. I might never be well 100%, and I'm aware of this, but I did everything on my own. And how I came back, through the death of my family, my husband and everything, was, I guess, me. I had gone to see the arthritis doctor because I figured, well, I'll get medication and they'll help me. And I wanted to get back to dancing. I wanted to dance again and get back again, and knock off the weight that I had gained. But when I was told that I had osteoarthritis, that's what I've got, which is the degenerative situation. That I had all of my life since I was about 23 years old, but that's something I always dreaded, because that's, the breaking of the bones and things like that.
Was going to have hip surgery, and didn't know how she was going to manage it, because she lived in a basement where she had to go down steps, and she didn't know how she was going to take care of herself, because she didn't have anybody to stay with or anybody to come in and take care of her. And somehow, I don't know how it happened, I just blurted out, well, why don't you just come here for a few days? And she did, and that few days turned into 3 months.
I just was so upset. I couldn't function anymore, so there again, I was becoming emotional again.
It was just a little one-room, it was almost like just living in squalor. There was an odor in the house that just hit you when you went in the door. And she had to go down a flight of steps to I guess a sub-basement. It wasn't a full flight of steps. And she had one room that I think had a high window, and it was just, it just surprised me. It was kind of heartbreaking to see that she had come from where she was down to this.
Maryland Rehabilitating Center in Baltimore is one of the most wonderful places you can possibly be. I found out about it because of my disability, and when I found out about MRC, I grabbed at it because it was my opportunity at this point to make something of myself because I had to change careers. My field counselors sent me up there for an evaluation. The thing, of course, that I saw was their auditorium. I flipped out and I said, what a wonderful place to put on a show. Anyway, I left, came back to school there, and began my new life, well, as a student actually, and I studied. But I said to myself, what can I do that would be totally different to show them my appreciation for what MRC has done for me? Of course, I know the work was all mine, but without them, I could not have made this changeover, this transition from dancer to esthetician. And so I thought about it, and I says, I know what I'm going to do. I would love to present my art to them, my Middle Eastern dancers. I would like to present a show. I think they would enjoy this. And I said to myself, this is going to be my gift to them. And I gave this gift to them to show them how much I appreciated for what they had done for me, the counselors and the doctors and the nurses and the house parents and the security guards and the kitchen, you know. I mean, everyone that was there was wonderful to me. I called my dancers up and I says, look, I would like to present a show at MRC, and it's also going to be my graduation and everything else, and I would like you girls to be part of my graduation. I've done many shows in my life, soloing, and I put on shows and things like this, and I've been to all kinds of shows, not just Middle Eastern. But the love, the warmth that I saw there that night, I'll probably never see again.
Hello there. It's good to be back again. Been gone about, 5 months? 4 months? We're all back here again. I'm out of breath right now. They all want me to dance, and I said to them tonight, I said, you know, I've had my time with dancing, and now it's time for everybody else to do it, even the last time. It's not easy for me because I'm still arthritic, and I had an attack about 3 weeks ago, and I didn't even think I was going to get on this stage tonight. But I'm here. The show goes on.
How lucky can I possibly be to have such a group of women who are so devoted to me? You know, what would I do without them? They have become my jewels. They're my prized possessions right now. That they're like my mascots. That I would not want to do a show without them. Even if I had to do something different, I would have to have them there somehow. Because they were there with me in the beginning. They were there for me for whatever has happened. And so they have to stay with me forever. It would be up to them to say, we don't want to be in your show anymore.
dancers that she's still connected with have a compassionate side to them. You know that it's a mask, that she wants to be this grand madam of the dance. She mesmerized me.
Adriana is a very caring person and a very complex person, and you have to give her a chance and not just make a snap judgment.
You just have to admire that inner strength, because she is difficult and she doesn't always have an easy time dealing with people. And you really have to admire that against all the odds, she always bounces back.
She says she's going to do a show. She's going to do it no matter what the circumstances, what's going on with her life, or how bad things are, and I admire her a great deal for that.
She's a phenomenon on stage. She's amazing.
She's one of a kind, you know? Adriana is one of a kind. I love Adriana. You know, she's an incredible person, you know, very unusual personality, and they broke the mold when they made her.
Best, gorgeous, #1 dancer. First of all, like that. Still, you are look beautiful.
At the end of every show, it's great. Everybody's happy, you know. We see that we've put on a good show, and all of the uptightness and all that stuff, it just goes away.
How would I describe my life? Well, it was wonderful. I've had trials and tribulations. I've had my ups and my downs. I have had a wonderful career. No matter what has happened to me, I'm there. I'm there as a teacher. I'm there as a dancer. I'm there for whatever the reason is. I don't give up the ship. The show must go on.
It was a time I don't think could ever be recreated. I've seen a number of efforts of trying. I've seen some small clubs all around different parts of the Washington area, some even old clubs down in New Orleans. There's a club in New Orleans that's 50-some-odd years old. They've never approached any of the things that we did in the Washington scene. Sorry you missed it. Maybe you'll catch it on the second bounce.
I want to thank you for also helping us. Rick, where are you? Thank you very much. And Eric Lawson.